could I help someone who wants some of my money without affecting my ability to continue to save at the rate that I want to save at?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then you
Welcome to the Live Greater View, a financial planning podcast produced by VLP Financial Advisors that discusses life, money, and perspective. We help clients live their best life at every stage through our VLP Live Greater partnership process. Thank you for tuning in. All right, well, welcome back. Thanks for joining us at the VLP Live Greater View podcast. So good topic, end of the year, heading into 2025. We've talked about, this comes up a lot about strategies, how to save more. So this topic this year, we're going to talk about strategies to save more in 2025. So I thought we'd go down a path, Dan, where we will talk a little bit about what's worked well, some of the common mistakes to avoid, and then really move into how to put kind of an action plan together for 2025.
Sure. Sounds great.
Yeah.
Or spend less.
Or spend less. Yeah, that's always... Yeah.
Makes it easier to save.
It does make that. Although I don't know, a lot of people don't like that answer usually.
Spend less. That'd be awful.
So New Year, typically what we start out the year talking to clients is New Year, review your goals, new goals.
Sure.
Yeah. So a lot of that comes up from time to time. And reason you might have set new goals is things may have changed.
Yeah. Job, family, got married, got divorced.
Oh, that happens.
Had a kid, had another kid.
Yeah.
Bought a house,
sell a house, yeah.
Just stuff happens.
Yeah.
And so you need to address it and think about it. I think the important thing is, I think maybe one of our past podcasts we talked about, goal setting. And if you're really trying to, again, get to that goal, write it down.
Right.
And then review it.
Yeah.
Go, where am I?
Yeah.
You're sort of holding yourself accountable to yourself.
And that's a good point. So, we talk all the time with clients is if goals more likely to be achieved if you have it written down. So if you have the goals, reviewing them, because sometimes goals change, right? Life changes, things get thrown at you. So it's a good time to revisit, hey, do these even still make sense? What's going on, and, where do I maybe need to refine things?
Right.
Yeah.
There's all those changes that could happen. It's not constantly.
Yeah.
You might go, hey, my 2024 or my 25 is going to look a lot like 24. You go, okay, so not a whole lot's changed. That's fine. But what didn't you get accomplished in this year from a financial savings perspective that you would have liked to have gotten accomplished? And then what's the next step to try to move forward on that?
Right. And that's a lot of times what that time will give you. And then, certainly 1 year later, you're 1 year closer to retirement, no matter what age you are.
Right. Yeah.
So it's always a good time to think about. And if you are close, what's that glide path going to look like? What might be changing? Do you need to save more money? Do you, are you on path? And, does that make sense to you? And sometimes it's, maybe there's another goal. So let's talk a little bit about some of the common mistakes that prevent you from saving. And I think we were joking a little bit before we started the podcast, but you said inflation, but lifestyle creep.
Yeah, make a little bit more, spend a little bit more.
Yep.
Make a little bit more, spend a bit. I would have always liked to buy clothes at this store that are more expensive, or I would have liked to drive a slightly nicer car, or whatever it is. We all have it. We make a little more, and we go, this is something I've always sort of wanted. And then it's just figuring out that trade-off between what do I want today and what do I want to be able to get in the future.
Yep.
And, you can buy all the stuff you want to buy with all your money and then don't save a thing. And then what the net result is going to be is, okay, well, you just got to keep working and grinding in order to make it ahead. And at some point in your life, you go, I'm kind of tired of the work and the grind.
Yep.
I either physically or mentally just can't keep doing it.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's always key to, if again, setting those goals, if there's something that you want, the new car, the new house, the biggest expense most people will ever outlay is going to be a new house, right?
College
is another big one. Yeah. You got a son graduating, so fresh off of knowing how expensive college is. But, those are the things where you got to think about, going to Starbucks every day. Is it cheaper to maybe you only go once a week or twice a week, and you're getting coffee at the office or at home, and kind of those things to say, where am I spending money? Because one of the things we see a lot of times doing a client financial plan, we have them write down their expenses, and one of the things that shocks me the most is their credit card, restaurant, and because everything's plastic.
Yep.
Everybody pays either with their phone or with their credit card. So until they really write the numbers down, they don't realize how much they spend on eating out and going by Starbucks every day or wherever, whatever your potential vice could be.
Yep.
It starts to add up. Lunch out.
Tell me about it.
Those add up. So it's those things where it gives you that time to kind of reevaluate is the budget. And, one of the things we see is that as clients start to make more money, they don't account for the fact that they could be doing something different with that delta.
Yeah, I mean, there's other way of looking at it. You could sort of work backwards and say, as opposed to looking at the spending and where am I spending money, look at what do I need to save this year in order for me, and future years in order for me to accomplish my goals.
Yep.
And where the money gets spent, as long as you're saving whatever, it's $20,000 a year, $10,000, maybe for somebody else it's $100,000, whatever the number is.
Yep.
You go, I've gotten this saved. Where you spend all the rest of the money, whatever, as long as you have that amount of money saved every single year. And sometimes it's easier for people because the spending gets overwhelming because you got your phone and you're like, click, I'll buy that, I'll click. It's certainly a whole lot easier to buy stuff nowadays.
Yes. Yep.
Right? I mean, I can buy a car on my phone right now.
Yeah. And they'll deliver it.
That's crazy. I shouldn't be allowed to do that. I should actually have to think about it before I just go, whatever pops into my little brain. Oh, buy. Amazon, all those places make it super easy to do. So you could work the other way and say, that's overwhelming. You go, okay, what is the amount that you want to save?
Yep. And
let's work from there and then have the savings that you've dictated and that you're going to set aside, have that dictate what you're spending the money on.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great point. And so let's talk a little about it because that's one of the other common mistakes we see is, you say, yes, I want to save this, but they don't set up automatic savings. So there's a couple ways to do that. Certainly if you work for an employer with a 401k, certainly that's easy. You go in, you elect what you want to put into your 401k. The amounts increase. They're going to increase again next year, depending on your age. You put over 23,000, over 31. If you're over age 50. But the big thing is it's automatic, right? I when we do 401k meetings, I talk to clients about this all the time. I said, this is great. I used to use my husband as an example. I said, look, if we'd go out on a Friday night and he had $150 in his pocket, he'll likely spend $150. If we go out and he has 100, he'll spend 100.
Yeah.
So if I just don't give him 150,
save it first.
We'll save it.
If
you save it first and you take that money out of the equation, you're more likely just to say, oh, well, this is what I have. So to your point, figure out that amount and save it. But the problem is you say, yep, I'm going to save that amount, but you don't set up the automatic to kind of get that started. Because if you have to do it, how many times like, oh, well, I was going to move that money, but car popped in my mind.
Yeah, something came up. Something popped into my mind that I actually have to have. Yeah. Which, the vast majority of the things that we're probably purchasing, we don't need.
Yeah.
We just want them.
Yeah.
And so you got to make that determination. But I think you're right. I think psychologically for people, out of sight, out of mind. Mm-hmm. And so they go, look, I need to put away $300 a paycheck for my 401k. And you go, well, if you do it automatically, as opposed to going, I'll just do a lump sum at the end of the year.
Right.
And you spread it out over time, it doesn't seem like as much. And psychologically, it's easier to deal with.
Yeah.
And if it's a regular thing, it makes it easier for you to understand the whole budgeting process anyway. You go, okay, this is the amount that gets saved. This is what's left over. And then I can dole that out to the different spending that I want to do.
Exactly. Yeah. And, and the other fact is setting up those automatic payments. 401ks are easy, but knowing what your 401k match is. A lot of employers match. And
sure.
Another common mistake we see with clients or with people that we're meeting with is that they don't know what the max match is and they're not taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
We're like, I'm putting in 3% or 4%. And I'm like, well, your company match is up to 6%.
Yeah.
Like we need to, that's free money.
Free money.
Yeah. I've never known, it's not like any employer at the end of the year goes, oh, you didn't get all the match. We're going to give you a bonus.
Yeah, no.
Never happens. In my 24 years of doing 401k plans, I haven't seen it happen.
Yeah.
So, those are the, key, know what your match is if you have a 401k plan. Make sure that you're maximizing that. If you got a pay increase your percentage. And a lot of the plan sponsors, whether the bigger plan sponsors, allow you to have an automatic increase.
Yep.
So take advantage of those things because, again, with inflation and lifestyle creep, your life is probably not going to get cheaper as we get older.
Yeah, I have had this discussion before. You meet people and you say, well, how have you long you've been working here? They're like, 5 years. And I'm like, you can see when they signed up, you go, well, you've been doing 5% for the same 5 years. Why you certainly have gotten paid slightly more.
Yeah.
Maybe not as much as you wanted, but slightly more. How hard would it have been to just increase it by 1% a year? And you wouldn't notice just 1%, maybe the first couple paychecks, right? And then by year 5, you go, well, I'm now saving 10% instead of that 5.
Yep.
And it's just, everything is a little bit, it's accretive.
It's a little, yeah.
You're just a little bit more at a time. And you don't have to make these major lifestyle changes, or don't read anything that says this is how much you should have saved by age X. I hate those.
Yes.
It just makes you mad because you go, I don't have that much money saved. So it makes people feel bad about what they
or they say, oh, I've got more saved, and then you go, well, how much do you spend?
Right.
And then they answer the question like, well, that ain't enough. So
exactly.
I tell when I see that they're the big those commercials walking around with their number. I'm like, did you ever see anybody have the same number? The answer is no. Yeah. They don't have the same number because we all have different backgrounds and expenses. Exactly. And so, you don't pay attention to that. You got to pay attention again to, you're better off trying to save up to 15% of your pay over your lifetime. And if you start early, you should be able to maintain your lifestyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The earlier the better.
Earlier the better.
Compounding interest, look it up if you're not quite sure what compounding interest is.
We'll do a different podcast on that.
It actually works. It's just math. It works.
Yeah. But, one of the things I always say when we talk to clients, especially on the 401k side, is it's not the first double that counts. It's the last double. Yeah. So, if you had $100 in the first double, you get 200, and it keeps doubling because, and you get to the fifth double. Well, that fifth double is now $1,500, make that millions, make it 100,000. It's the last double that matters. It's not the first. So starting early. So
and there's concepts in that, right? So
yeah.
The rule of 72.
Yep.
And you say it to most people, they're like, what is the rule of 72? I've never even heard it. You just take the number 72 and divide it by whatever interest rate you think you're going to get. Let's just say you think you're going to, on average, grow your money at 7%.
Yep.
72 divided by 7. Every 10 years, you're going to double your money.
Yep.
So as you said, in year number 30, it looks pretty good. But if you double that money again in year number 40, the 40th year of working, it's a giant leap.
If you go from 1 million to 2 million and then double 2 million to 4, that's much better. Yeah. So, and that's the key of starting early. Yep. Initially, you're going to get some help from the government because you go to work somewhere now. There's a 401k plan under Secure Act 2.0. It's automatic enrollment into a 401k plan, which the studies show that the reason they started moving to that is 93% stay in the plan.
Sure.
And it was vice versa. When you actually had to go and sign up, well, nobody did. You had to do something.
Right.
So it was less. So, it more and more you're getting into that mindset, but take advantage of the things. Make sure you're getting the match because sometimes the automatic enrollment isn't the full match. So most companies have started to move to do that. And then make sure if you have that opportunity to do that auto increase to take advantage of that also.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
If you're not maxed out, then you go, okay, well, I'm at 5. I want to get to 6. Just do it by 1%.
Yeah.
You'll notice it over time.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk a little bit about from another angle, some other mistakes people make. One we'll talk about is, loaning money or co-signing on loans for whether it's some family members, and just make sure know what you're getting yourself into.
Yeah, I read something, I don't know who quoted it, but I read something, I've said this to you. Successful people say no more than they say yes.
Yeah, he tells me that all the time.
So, and this may just be people wanting your time. Certainly matters when people want your money. Especially if they think you have considerably more than they have, and they really don't know how much you have because you haven't really, they're just making it up. They go, oh, they got this big house and my house isn't this nice, so they must have way more money.
Right.
You say no more than yes.
Yeah. And my other, to back that up, is no is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, yeah.
It's so you have to look at, could I help someone who wants some of my money without affecting my ability to continue to save at the rate that I want to save at?
Yeah.
And if the answer is yes, then you go, sorry, I can't help you.
Yeah. And you have to take into account when you co-sign a loan, what is, are they going to pay it on time? Is this going to affect your credit if there's some downside? Because we hear stories all the time. It started with good faith. They know this person something happened. They didn't make the payments. Now they're on the hook for something that they didn't account for. It caused some credit. Their need to move. Now the mortgage rate's gone. It comes a snowball effect. So be careful. That's one of the things you just got to be careful of. If you have enough assets and you're doing a personal loan, that's one thing. I always tell clients too, if you're doing a personal loan, how would you feel if you don't get any money back? And if they go, well, I'm like, then there's your answer. You probably shouldn't do the loan.
Exactly.
If you're willing to do a gift. So again, those are the things you got to just walk through and say, how would this affect my personal strategy and my goals going forward? And if this didn't work out and I had to step in, how would I feel? Would there be resentment? Would that ruin this friendship, this relationship?
Right.
It's true. Money can ruin, changes everything. Yeah.
The whole dynamic of the relationship has now shifted.
Yep.
To I'm thinking about the money you owe me.
Yep.
And the other person going, I got to pay this person back, or maybe they're thinking that, or they're, depending on their personality set, they go, well, it's a friend,
Yeah.
The other thing is, in some instances, for people who are going to be listening, they go, well, what about my kids?
Yeah, that's different.
Right? You have a 20-something-year-old who might want to buy a house at some point, and she's going to go, I can make the payments, but I'm not going to necessarily qualify for the loan.
Right.
And you go, okay, I'll co-sign for you, but let's you have an understanding of what me co-signing means.
Yes.
I'm on the hook. So
Yep.
if you lose your job, which I don't want you to do, and they don't either, and yours don't have the savings that you need for that short-term emergency, I'm on the hook.
Yep.
And you're probably going to pay it because you love your children and you go, I don't want them homeless, and I certainly don't want them to move back into my house.
Yeah, that's
right?
true. Yeah.
Yeah, sure, I'll make that payment.
Yeah.
But
send me the bill.
At some point you go, well, how long can I
Right.
make that payment again until it affects the things that I'm doing?
Right.
So you got to really take that into consideration of how is it you want to help people.
Right.
It feels good.
How can you do it that doesn't affect your personal? Is it just maybe you give a down payment? And So there's things, that's true. So let's talk a little about that, because let's move into, you get into retirement. We have, client goes into retirement, and this happens from time to time. Usually we have the conversation, the first 18 months, maybe it's first year or two, you're just figuring out what your new normal is, right?
Yeah.
You used to get up, you used to go to work. Now you have all this time. So maybe you're traveling, maybe you're volunteering, if you're doing new things and hobbies that you didn't do that are more expensive, and things will fall off because maybe you don't have to maintain the car. There's all kinds of things. And you hear a lot of times with clients go, well, I'm in my go-go years. I'm going to spend more money now. Then I'll go to my slow go, and then I'll be in my no-go. That's okay, but if you retire at 60 or 65, how long is each of those periods going to be?
Yeah.
So we see some clients the first couple of years retire. We build this beautiful plan, this is what they're going to spend, and then you're getting a call and you're going, hey, not to alarm you, but you're spending way more than we planned. Right. So you got to be cognizant of that, because if they live 25, 30 years, 40, which they could, you can run out of money.
Yeah. So you can't save too much.
Right.
But you certainly can spend too much.
This is true. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you've never met anybody who said, oh, I'm going to retire with too much money.
Yeah.
Right? That never happens. But you can run into people where you go, there's nothing flowing in, right? You're not saving anymore. All you're doing is pulling money out. And there's only a certain amount you can pull out every single year, and without running the risk of running out or die early.
Right.
And they go, well,
You can't control that.
They might be able
You might be able to, but yeah.
They're probably not. Let's
Right.
just say that.
Yeah.
So we have to plan for our clients living a really long time. That's the biggest risk.
Yes.
Them dying prematurely, while very, very sad, it just doesn't cost as much money.
Right.
And so you have to keep going back to them and saying, you have to, can you stick to this plan? If they go, I'm not sure, you go, well, don't retire yet.
Right. Yep.
Or you know what? What I've done with clients is I said, save all of your money.
Yeah.
Don't spend anything that comes from your paycheck, and let's spend in the last year of retirement, or last year before you retire, we'll just take all the money that you need from your portfolio that we've come up with in the plan, and you tell me if you can live on that.
Yeah.
And if they come back and say no, you go, okay, you're still working. You may need to push that out a little bit.
Yeah. That's a good point. And it is, it is key. And sometimes there will be things you'll do. And, but if you plan for, hey, you're going to have that one big trip that you're going to take 6 months and it's going to cost X, Y, Z, fine.
My dream car,
your dream car, your boat. Yeah.
You can plan for those things.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be exact year that they do it.
No.
But as long as the amount roughly
Yeah.
is in that planning, you go, okay, I don't know, you do it next year, 2 years from now, but we've planned for it. So it's not.
And the last 2 years of the market has given a lot of clients go, the market's gone up,
Yeah.
Double digits. I'm okay. And I'm, I have to remind them like, well, 2022 wasn't double digits up. It was double digits down. So, those are the things you got to, short-term memories. And you got to plan, so that's the other thing is, again, looking at kind of the plan and whether how much you're spending, but also how much of an impact market volatility is going to be in there.
Yeah, I think, anybody who's listened to our podcasts, more than one of them, in general, I think the theme is plan.
Right.
I mean, we are financial planners. It's in our...
Yeah, it is.
But you just tend to be more successful if you plan for something that's a fairly large hurdle to get over, which is retiring.
Yeah.
So plan on each year, what am I going to save? Or looking at the money that I'm spending. Mm-hmm. And it's... it's all accretive as you go along.
Yep.
And the people who tend to do a pretty good job of, you don't have to be an expert at planning, but who at least spend some time as
thinking through it.
Zero time.
Yeah.
They tend to be more successful in it.
Right. Yeah.
It
causes to give less stress for them in retirement.
Yeah.
Because that is, without a question. All right. So let's move over to ways to save more in 2025.
Okay.
Talked a little bit about it. The easy one is review your budget. It's usually a tough one because a lot of our life is electronic now. It's digital.
Yep.
So, but with that comes the ability, a lot of our banks and credit cards they put everything out where, what categories you're spending. So, it's a good time to kind of reevaluate how, has lifestyle creep come in? Am I doing things out of convenience where maybe I'm, buying lunch out all the time or getting that coffee where I could maybe save a couple $100 here and there or more by doing something a little bit different. And are there things that are going to increase this year? Because our property tax going up if you own a house. So insurance has been a big one we've seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Certainly if you live in southern states, a lot of clients are, their homeowners insurance is really gone up.
Yeah.
Car insurance, those things we have to factor in. And how is that going to affect the savings plan?
Right. Well, you got to start with the need from a budgetary standpoint, or what I like to call a spending plan. Because it just sounds cooler.
It does.
Budget has a negative connotation to it.
Yep.
But at the start of the spending plan is, what are the needs that I have, right? And categorizing things by, you got to have a roof over your head.
Yep.
Right? Rent, mortgage, whatever it is.
Healthcare.
I got to have insurance at certain places.
Yep.
I got to have healthcare. But then you really start to categorize those wants, and you see how much they are, and you go, but I really want that.
Yeah.
I'm sure you really do, but you're going to really want to retire someday.
Right.
So life is a balancing act, right? People say, hey, you want work-life balance. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you can have work-life balance. If you're going to be really successful, you're probably working more than not working.
Right.
But, you also need to have savings balance from that perspective, right? You could save too much and you go, I'm not doing anything I want today.
Right. But then that's a good time. You can reevaluate your budget.
Exactly. So, and there are some people who talk about, hey, have you heard of FIRE?
Yeah.
So what is it? Financially independent, retire early.
Yes.
And that was a big thing on the internet for a while there. And it was like, save everything you can. Never, ever, ever spend any money other than on your needs. And then you maybe can retire at 35 or 40. But I don't know anybody who wants to live that way for 10 or 20 years.
It sounds great, But what we typically see is purpose. We have a lot of conversations with client is, what is your purpose?
Right.
What are you going to retire to?
Right.
And when they go, what? And you say, well, it sounds great, but what are you going to do in retirement? Just this week, I had clients who came in retired. One, the husband says, I was born to retire. Great at it. Fabulous. And he is. He's just phenomenal. And then I have another client who goes, I am so bored. I'm getting a part-time job.
Yeah, sure.
Just different. So clearly the one client, his passion was retiring, not having to do anything or do what he wants to do when he wants to. But, and then the other client, they didn't have a clear path. So it is, it's definitely, retiring early seems great, but there are so many hurdles too, because medical is becoming a huge one.
Yeah. I mean, and there's only so much you can do about it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Get more and more deductibles and hope you don't need to have to pay it out of pocket on your own to bring the premiums down to a higher deductible.
So the big takeaway here is, you got to review the spending plan and your costs and see what's increasing and what's decreasing, because you may have to go, wow, I really love my insurance company. They were great when I had that auto and accident or what have you, but the price has gone up so exponentially. Maybe I need to reevaluate shop it. And half the time, you'll shop it, go back to your carrier and like, oh, we'll match it.
Sure.
But they won't do that if you don't do the work, right? You don't say anything. So,
agreed.
You got to take that time, and looking at that spending plan is a perfect opportunity to see, is there some areas I need to reevaluate, and do I have the right, whether we were just having this conversation at lunch about streaming services and cable, and I'm still
the prices of streaming services.
I'm still the dinosaur on cable, and I'm like, you guys are catching back up. It's all good. but yeah, so the budget, the spending plan, all that stuff is good. What's going up with inflation? What's your pay increase going to be? If you're on a fixed budget, what's your COLA from Social Security or pension if you're lucky to have one, those types of things. And then we talked a little bit about, what are some big ticket item things you want to save for? Is there a big trip you want to take? Is it college? And really kind of backing into how much do you need to save to meet that?
Right.
Maybe it's a new house, those types of things.
And then all these amounts can be fairly small and incremental.
Yep.
Right? You go, well, I think I can go from saving $100 into my emergency savings. I need to set aside money for emergency. I think I can raise it to 110.
Yep.
But then also understanding, hey, I've got my emergency savings to where I needed to get it. And
Next.
And I haven't had an emergency.
Yeah.
And so what can I do with those dollars that were going there? I just stop the dollars from going there and have them go to my 401k, my non-retirement savings investments.
Like an individual or joint account, trust
or whatever.
Yep.
And you're not spending or saving more. You're just manipulating
where you're putting those buckets in.
That goes into.
Yep.
And so it's not affecting cash flow.
No.
But to your point, a good thing is, yes, let's review some of those needs costs. Can't really do much about your mortgage unless interest rates come down. You go, okay, maybe there's an opportunity there. But to change your insurance, the insurance company doesn't like you.
They don't probably even know who you are.
They don't know who you are. They don't send you a birthday card. Nobody comes over to give you a hug. They're not family.
Yeah.
You're just a number. And the same with your internet carrier or your phone carrier. Go, hey, I heard about this deal. They're not going to offer you the deal unless you call and say, I'm moving.
Yeah.
Because for them, it's just a numbers game.
Yeah.
So I think if you can look at those things annually, I mean, you're not changing your auto and home insurance like every 6 months.
No one does that. Most of the time.
But most people don't even want to do it annually.
Right.
So you go, okay, well, what's the saving on that? It's $50.
Yeah.
It's not that much, but you go, okay, it doesn't cost you anything to set aside that $50.
Right.
Because you're
just
already spending it.
reposition it. Yeah.
Exactly.
And then, so that talks a little bit about, maybe different types of account. We alluded to savings account, having a high yield savings account. This has been a big one, a big conversation piece that's been missed by lots of people we've met with. You had your savings account. Oh, you just think when interest rates went up, you're getting paid more. But the reality was most clients were not getting paid more. You had to go seek them out. They changed something on your old savings account, and guess what? You're only so where are you saving that money? And in the savings account, are you getting market, above market yields?
Right.
Are you getting 3-4%, or just market?
Just market.
Yeah, those types of things. So making sure you have high yield savings account once you've gotten to your emergency savings amount that you think you need. Where are you going to put that other money? The other key is 401k, Roth, individual. You got to be cognizant of the different tax implications of those accounts, right?
Sure.
Because we're getting to a scenario now where you're really starting to see the first generation of workers who are retiring with their entire career was saving in a 401k.
Yeah, no pension.
No pension.
Yep.
And some of these 401ks and IRAs are in the multi-million-dollar,
Yeah.
and then they have to start taking income, and you're going, oh, well, guess what? You're still in the same tax bracket.
Right.
So, having some money in other types of vehicles like an individual, a savings account, a trust account, where it's capital gains versus income, those are key things to kind of think about as you're looking at your strategy and your long-term plan.
Yeah, different tax
Yep.
buckets, as we
Yep.
say. Like
Yep.
this is tax-free, this is capital gains, this is income, and having different buckets to pull from allows you to manipulate your tax bracket when you finally have to start taking money.
Yeah. All right. Well, great. So just kind of to wrap up, looking forward, this time of year is usually when we enjoy the holidays.
Spending money.
Spend the money. January comes, we join the gym. We maybe look at our budget, wonder where all our cash went. This is a good time to kind of just step back and say, what's my spending plan? Am I saving enough? What are my goals?
Right.
Reevaluate. Are they even still accurate? If you haven't put them down on paper, put them on paper.
Right.
And then, just that's where you can start making those slow tweaks and make sure you have those buckets for savings.
Yeah, without question. And if you're in a relationship, typically one person is more involved with that,
Yep.
with the finances than the other. And, and that's normal in a relationship. But when it comes to the household finances, certainly start having that conversation,
Yep.
even for the person who's not as interested in it,
Yeah.
so that they understand what's happening. So if anything happens to you,
Yep.
they're still
Yeah.
not.
And this is a good time. This is a good time to meet with your advisor. Make sure, see how the accounts did, what the plan is for the next year, or the things you need to adjust and change. And certainly, they can help you look through and make decisions and adjustments as needed.
Yeah, and if you're doing things on your own, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
But you can also get a second opinion,
Yep.
and it's no different than your health. You go, look, I live a healthy lifestyle. You still go get a checkup once in a while,
Yep.
just to see how healthy you are.
Yeah.
So really just think about, hey, maybe I'm hiring a financial advisor. I'd never thought about it. And it's just for a few hours of time for that person to say, hey, here's some things you might want to think about
Yep.
that maybe you haven't because you just didn't have the time to do the research that they do all day.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, thank you for joining us today. If you like this video or other ones, please subscribe and stay up on our latest content.
Yep.
And if you have any questions or are we looking for that second opinion or we can give you help, feel free to reach out to us.
Thanks.
Thanks. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Live Great Review. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Spotify and recommend our podcast to family and friends. To learn more about VLP Financial Advisors, please check out our website at vlpfa.com. Thanks again.
And now for our necessary disclosures. Securities and advisor services offered through Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, member FINRA SIPC, a broker-dealer and registered investment advisor. All investing involves risk, including the possible loss of principal. There is no assurance that any investment strategy will be successful. The views stated in this podcast are not necessarily the opinion of Cetera Advisor Networks, LLC, and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned. Due to the volatility with the markets mentioned, opinions are subject to change without notice. Information is based on sources believed to be reliable. However, their accuracy or completeness cannot be guaranteed. Past performance does not guarantee future results.